to another episode of Real Chat Lounge. As you probably see, I have a guest with me. And today's conversation, I know I say this all the time, but today's conversation is going to be very interesting. I think this is the first time that she's telling her side of her story on camera, if I'm not mistaken.
I've done it before.
You've done it before?
Yeah,
Okay, interesting. So today we have, if I have to say, the first black winner of a beauty pageant in Belgium, if I have to say. Probably maybe other people, but this is, and she's Ghanaian. Let's just say the first Ghanaian pageant winner in Belgium. And today we're going to talk about all things pageants, right? Because you probably know her, you've probably read something about her, all the things that happened before, after, during, everything. So today she's here with me and we're going to talk all things pageants. So help me welcome Elizabeth. Hey, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. And you?
I'm good. I'm happy to have you on the pod.
I'm happy to be here.
You know, that's what's funny is how we came up with this idea is so you posted something on your Instagram recently, and I thought it was like the way you spoke about it, you were really passionate about it. Like, you know what, like every year I get this question. People ask me about this all the time. So that's when I was like, you know what, just come on the pod, let's talk about it, and then just dive into it and see what happened, what went wrong, what went well, and so on. So let's start. So first of all, first black winner of a beauty pageant in Belgium. I think so,
Yeah,
right?
that's true. First fully black, because they have been mixed.
Okay.
Like half.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like us blacks, they're also
considered
black.
As the black. Exactly.
But it was the first fully black.
Maybe I'll say dark skin.
Dark skin, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, you're right.
Okay. Before that, so who is Elizabeth? Have you always had interest in pageants? Were you always was it always your dream to be part of a beauty pageant, or how is it for you growing up?
Me growing up, I actually always wanted to be a top model.
Ooh.
Always wanted to have a crown on my head.
Nice.
I was really, as a child, I was actually really girly.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when I was 15, when I came to Belgium, when I moved from the UK to Belgium, I was like, maybe I need to do something, you know, because I don't really know that much people, and I still want to be a model, but registering a model, like, you know, when you register, they have to wait, you know, the weight check, the length, the this and the that, and they found out I was like really short. I didn't have the requirements to be, you know, a top model, but I could be a model only for like commercials.
Yeah.
So then I was like, nah, I need to do something else. And that's when the pageant idea came into my head. I was like, okay, maybe let me search, you know, what's out there for me, except.
And this is at the age of 15.
Well, at 15 is when the idea came,
okay.
But I was still really fearful because I wasn't really settled in Belgium. I was still trying to figure out with school, my new living lifestyle. UK and Belgium is totally different. I think everybody can say that, you know. So when I turned 19, I felt I was mature enough.
Don't we all?
Exactly. So I told my parents, yeah, I'm going to sign in.
Oh, wow. What was their reaction?
You know, we're Ghanaians, so I'm just going to be blunt and say, you know, in this country, I don't know if you're even going to win. You know, they were really straightforward.
Yeah.
I don't know, you know, you don't normally see black people. I was like, well, it's not because other black girls are not doing it or winning it, because they were doing it. There was a few black girls. But if they're not winning, doesn't mean I shouldn't try. I just actually want the experience of it. So before they knew it, I was in Ostende, going to register for it.
Okay, and because while you were searching for pageants to take part in, because there are different kind of pageants in Belgium, because the biggest pageant in Belgium is, of course, Miss Belgium. Exactly. So what made you decide to go for Miss Exclusive instead of Miss Belgium?
Well, that's how do you say it? I had to think really carefully, because I was like, well, to be Miss Belgium, you have to speak fluent French as well, which is something I'm still struggling with. Mon français, c'est très mal.
I live in Brussels, trust me. Don't even ask me if my French is good.
So I was like, I'm not going to embarrass myself. So I actually was looking for pageants where English was like one of the main things. I was like, okay, my English is good, my Dutch is good, and my French, it's gonna probably, they could give you like things, dialogues to study, but I wasn't gonna have that. I was like, nah, if they start asking me questions, it's gonna be like those pageant things where you become a meme, and I was like, nah, let me not do that.
I get
That's one of the reasons why I actually didn't even register for it.
Yeah. But what stood out for you for Miss Exclusive?
Miss Exclusive,
it just the language, or
not only the language, but when you go on social media, which is really tempting, the things that they were posting, the activities, for me, it was mainly about getting to know people. They were posting a lot of activities. I was like, I've never tried indoor skydiving.
Yeah, I see they do that.
I've never done surfing. I've never. So I was like, except Miss Exclusive, because Miss Exclusive is actually very close to Miss Belgium when it comes to sponsorships and everything, and
also the license for international pageants.
And then afterwards you have like little ones next to it. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go for this one so I can experience at least a little bit of the high level pageant experiences.
True.
So that was actually one of the reasons why I chose Miss Exclusive. And I believe back then there was also a Ghanaian girl that registered. I believe Tracy, if I'm not name dropping right now. But I believe she also did it.
Okay.
Before me and Queenie even registered.
Okay.
So Queenie and I were in the same year.
Okay, that's true.
But she did it and she posted it. So I was like, okay. A familiar face has also tried it. So
but I don't think back then it was popular.
It wasn't popular, but the fact that I wanted to do it, for me, it stood out. It was like,
a black girl, a Ghanaian.
She did it. Oh yeah, okay, then it must be safe.
Exactly. It must be safe.
It must be,
if
and
someone
that's the
looks
key
at the
word.
It must be safe. Okay, so now you've registered. How is the registration process? Was it like pre-selection? How was it? How was the vibe when you met them?
You register online and then they invite you to a casting. They ask you to wear red. Our time was red, but I believe they ask you every time to wear a particular type of dress. You go there, they have the interview, ask you a few questions, mainly pageant questions. What would you like to reach? What are your goals if you were to win? And my interview went pretty well because back then one of the casting members was actually a French guy, but he spoke English. So I was doing my thing, I was talking a lot, and he was like really convinced. And for me, it felt like, when you go for a modeling agency, the casting calls. So I was like, okay, it feels a little bit the same. And that's how it went. It went really fluent.
And you had a good feeling.
I had a great feeling because when I was going in, there were already a few girls waiting. When I came out, there's still a few. So I was like, there's a lot of people coming. It must be a big thing, and I hope I'm part of the selected group. You start thinking it must be a limited, spaces, and if I'm not selected, I'm really gonna feel bad about it. So I really did my best. I talked my socks off.
No, I can imagine. And so, now you have been selected to be a finalist. And how was it with the other girls? Because you mentioned there was a Ghanaian. Do you unintentionally gravitate more to someone that looks like you? How was it in general? Was it like healthy competition with the girls and so on? Like, how was the dynamic with the girls?
It was actually really healthy, I believe, in the beginning.
Oh, okay.
Let me rephrase myself. In the beginning, it was actually really healthy because everybody wants to show that they're girls, they're supportive. So when we met each other in Brussels, Atomium, I believe. And it was like a great experience. They had a few activities that we had to do. We went to Mini Europa.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's taking pictures and really fun. Gradually, the groups
started
forming.
Yeah.
They started creating other groups within
the
group. Then you had like the ones that feel like they have more chances of winning. Then you have the ones that feel a little bit more insecure. I wouldn't say I was insecure, but I knew financially there were girls
People,
in
yeah.
there that were really, really,
Yeah.
having money.
Okay.
And I knew that my parents would be like,
They're not gonna
say,
drop 10K.
yeah, they're gonna say the typical Ghanaian like minisika.
Yeah, and
yeah,
you get what I mean?
exactly.
Yeah.
So I didn't even bother my parents with anything. So I was like, how am I gonna do this? Already financially I'm not on the same level, but my confidence level
is high.
It's high, and it better help me.
Okay.
So that's how it went. I believe in the beginning we were a pretty good team,
Okay.
a fun team.
Yeah. I can imagine while it's getting to the end, people want to win, so they try to do things.
Yeah, and I feel like the organization also took part in, creating those groups. They'll say things about one person to the other. That person will then take that information and, to the next person. So you start hearing things about each other. And, girls, if we're girls, we support each other. Once we become, competition minded and we want to win and this and that, we become really nasty beings. And I would say my year was actually okay when it comes to that. We were a little bit mature compared to the other years that I've heard, the other girls that have participated, the last 4 or 5 years. I believe that they've done the most nastiest things to each other, or, when it comes to social media or, stalking each other. Like the stories are crazy.
Yeah. And so when you got yourself into the pageant, were you fully aware the financial toll it's gonna take on you? Was it explained to you like, okay, this is the expectation that we have, this is the amount of money you need to bring in? Because it is a lot. Because I also took part in the pageant, but we get into that. So like, were you fully aware? Because you were 19 at that time. Yeah.
So we got our contracts and it looks really professional. Now, let me say a few years later, I'm more mature and schooled, and I read it and I'm thinking, what article? He wrote a lot of things. For a 19-year-old that's not really familiar with the system, you feel really intimidated. But at that point, you have this drive of participating and you want to be part of something. So you kind of feel like if somebody was to say, oh, you're selling sweets for 3K, but then he breaks it down into, it's just 50 per week.
Yeah, but 50 per week.
As a 19-year-old, you're not naive, but yet you feel like, I'm so determined, I'm gonna make it work. I'll sell 10 on Monday, then I'll sell 10. You challenge yourself in a way. Now saying it sounds funny in my head, but it actually felt like, and that's how he also explains it, how the manager explains it. You sell 10 on Monday. If you sell 10 every day, you will be done by the first week because it's just 50.
It's just 50.
But can you believe as a 19-year-old, you're actually like, yeah, on my street, there's like 40 people and I don't know them, but that's 40 people. Yeah. So I'm just going to go and try them, and then I'll try the next street, and then I'll try at school. You start planning. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You plan, but you don't plan that you're going to be selling this for at least 6 months.
6 months?
And that's one thing you do not take into consideration. That's something I didn't do, because you think, oh yeah, I'm selling just 50.
Yeah. Oh,
and that 50 is for a whole month. Times 6. And that's when the calculations are not really stated on your contract. Yeah. It's just you're going to be selling this amount, and you start thinking, oh yeah, that's okay, that's doable. No, because what happened with us was, if somebody wasn't able to sell theirs and you are a strong seller, you get a bonus.
Wait, what does that mean? That means you have more chances of winning?
So he starts putting in your head like, yeah, you're so good at selling, your chances of winning is even greater because it means you're a team player. It's that kind of mind game. So now you had girls that couldn't go and sell because they had to go to school or had to work, so their parents then buy their candies. And then they're like, oh, you can sell so well.
Oh, wait, let's give you more.
Let's add another 30. Let's add another 20. So that became like a normal thing. And the more girls that stopped the more pressure
Of course.
that the ones that stayed had. Why? Because his budget was already set before the finalists were selected.
Yeah.
He knew, I'm going to let them sell this much per month. If one falls, the candies are already ordered and they have to make it work.
And were you able to sell it?
Well, as I said, the beginning, the motivation was there. I was traveling. That's one positive thing that I would say. I traveled almost the whole Belgium during my finalist year. My whole savings went to NMBS. It went to buying train tickets, carpooling and paying, the petrol that the person's driving us to, like,
just to sell candy.
Just to sell candies. I even learned so many dialects. How I would go to West Vlaanderen and I would be like, ik ben snoepjes aan het verkopen. I would do the whole. At one point, I didn't even have to think. I just said the same thing every time. And then they were like, spek. I was like, what? Spekker. I was like, no, not spek. Snoep. And they're like, nee, in West Vlaanderen. It's, candies are called spekker.
So now you have to learn.
So I'm like, wait. So now, on top of all the challenges, I now have to learn different dialects of candies. I'm glad I didn't make it to Brussels to be learning bonbon, because I was like, Brussels is going to be English. I'm not even going to try any other. Like, désolé, bonbon. Like, I'm working with everything I have. So yeah, in the beginning, let's say the first 3 months, I was really driven. Afterwards, my parents could see, like, it was sucking the life out of me. I sold to everybody I could think of. I even ended up taking boxes to church. I would take it to Ghanaian parties. I hardly go to Ghanaian parties. Nobody ever sees me there. I was telling my parents, take it to your workplace. I called my uncles, all my uncles from the UK, like, uncle, please help. Because at this point, I don't know what to do with it.
And in that moment, did you think you had a chance to win?
Absolutely not. But I was no, because there were girls that we were given a month. After 2 weeks, they were like, I'm done.
Mama and Papa are paying.
Exactly. That was their proof of showing that they are capable of performing the same way we're performing, but on a different level. They would even say, oh, my sponsor sent me 1K, so I used it for the candy.
Oh yeah, sponsorships.
Oh, that was on top of everything. You had to bring at least 6K sponsorships.
6K.
Yes, that was on top of everything you're selling.
And was this made aware? Like, were you aware of this?
They were on the contract. There were more minimums.
Yeah.
But once the competition started, it became your minimum wasn't the same as somebody's minimum. If they say at least 3K, somebody else would say, oh, I can bring 4. It became like an auction of yourself. Oh, I can bring 4. Oh, I can bring 8. There are girls that were able to drop 12K. Like, it wasn't, I had 2 sponsors. Each gave me 6K. How? Exactly. But then I had one sponsor.
Oh yeah, so you were able to find
I was able to find sponsors, and I still work for one of my sponsors.
Oh
9 years later.
The one in Rachel,
Yeah, I still work for her 9 years later. When my contract ended and I was like, I'm never going to work with this guy ever again, she was like, me too. She stopped and she was like, I'm going to take you as my model. So I'm the face of the past 9 years. She's never hired anybody from the pageant. She was like, I'm not doing it. I want nothing to do with it. So that's one great thing that actually came out of it. She was one of my best sponsors.
Wow.
And I had a few sponsors. Some that were actually just donating. They were like, we're not, because there were also sponsor margins.
Oh.
Before you become a sponsor, you have to at least pay a certain amount, because if you don't, then your name's not going to come on the flyers.
Oh my God.
Honestly, I'm not sure what the flyers actually did for them, because some didn't get anything out of it. And that's why they decided to stop after a year.
Okay, so now, outside of the candy, sponsorships and everything, how were you preparing for the final day?
Well, I was working out. I was working out a lot.
Yeah.
Mentally, I think I programmed my parents, especially my mom and my sister, were like, just go and have fun.
Yeah.
You know, they were like, it's not like we don't believe that you're beautiful. You're beautiful. But you know, the country we live in, it's not about your looks. It's not about your intelligence. Sometimes it's about your connections.
Yeah.
What can you mean to somebody long term, short term, and you yourself? You know, we don't have connections. Let's be real. We're just simple Ghanaians having fun, working, and you know, we're not going to be telling them this and that. Oh yeah, I can call this person to arrange it. So just have fun.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that they told me to have fun, I had so much fun, because for me it was like, this is it.
Exactly.
You know, I made it this far, and that was the most important thing for me. I hardly give up. If I start something, I will go for it until I see that thing becomes a toxic item in my life, or it's time to. So when I started, for me, I had to end it. Regardless of how, if it was going to be blood, sweat, or tears, I was like, I'm going to end it. I might not have been able to bring in the sponsors, not finish selling my candies, but the fact that I've made it here and nobody's complaining about the candies are not sold, just have fun. So I danced my socks off.
Yeah, I watched the show. You did amazing.
I had so much fun.
Yeah.
For me, it was like, you
And
know,
on the final,
this is it.
you didn't have an idea that
I still had no idea on the finals. When they started removing girls, I was like, you know, in the other pageant, in Miss Belgium, I was like, if it was, I would have been, you know, gone.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm like, I'm still here. So every time I would make it to the next level, the confidence started coming up.
Yeah.
I was like, I was more thinking about the dances that we had to do.
Yeah.
You know, how good did they have to look on camera?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to make a fool out of myself. I was more busy doing that than
thinking
about winning.
Yeah.
And I had two people in my head that I
you
was
thought
like,
was gonna
they're
win.
gonna
Yeah.
win. So why? And the fact that I was in the same group as them every time, I'm like,
oh, we the same.
we're in the same group. Every time we'll go backstage, taking off our clothes, wearing our outfit, I'll be high fiving, I'll be talking to them, I'll be laughing, and they looked stressed at one point. You know, more stressed. I'm like, yes, because when you know you're gonna win something, and but when you're not winning, you're just there to have fun.
You were just there to have fun.
I'm just fooling around, I'm laughing, I'm giggling, but at the same time, I didn't want to make a fool out of myself.
Yeah, because it was gonna be on TV as well.
Exactly. And when I looked, there were girls that have already dropped out of it, and you don't want to show that you're too happy, because you also want to take their feelings into consideration, because we all know how hard we all worked to get there. Yeah. So it's like, I'm sorry, but you don't want to give too much emotional support. You just, you know, give the look like it's gonna be okay, we'll talk afterwards, and then you just continue, and then right behind the curtains you're like, this is what I'm supposed to do, start practicing. And it was fun. It was fun knowing that
you could go that far.
When I made it to top 5, I was like, okay,
maybe
this is it. I made it. I can say
I was top 5.
Made it to top 5. So I was already making my speech.
So now, in that moment, as a 19-year-old, taking part in one of the biggest pageants in Belgium, how did you feel when they said your name to be Mr. Swift 2015?
Wow. You know, I didn't realize the moment, because when we went backstage to change, I can literally tell you I was wearing nothing under my clothes. The pressure was so high. I was like, I'm not going to win. They're not going to put a spotlight. And I was wearing this Beyonce inspired.
Yeah, I saw it was good.
But yeah, I'm not. So I'm like, wait, my outfit is actually banging.
Yeah, your outfit.
I'm like, this is too good, you know?
Yeah.
So they better make me at least top 3 because this outfit can't be just gone with the 2 girls that fall off. So when I heard it is an unique primeur, I still didn't realize they're talking about me.
Because that statement that he made,
yeah,
that was the moment I knew you were gonna win.
And a lot of people were clapping, and I'm like, I was looking at the blonde girl.
No.
And I'm like, first of all, the two people that I thought were gonna win have already gone. They're gone.
That was the moment I knew you were gonna
I'm
win.
looking at these two that I actually didn't expect to win. So I'm like, whoa, I can actually win as well, because those that I thought they were gonna win are not here. And one of the girls, I'm like, okay, you're nice and everything, but you didn't sell a lot of candy. So what are you doing here?
Yeah.
And when I heard Inika Premier and everybody's clapping, it didn't
click.
And then they said, Elise, and then I was like, hold up, that's my name.
Yeah,
that's
you.
My name. When I did the whole, it's such a cliche, but every pageant you do that.
Yeah,
it was real. Mine was
real.
I was sweating. I was looking around. I couldn't see anybody because you have the spotlights, on you. So you're literally going blind whilst trying to look for your people. And, my parents, my family, they had like one row, not even a whole row, they have half a row.
Yeah.
So I'm like, where are they?
Yeah.
And I looked at the girls and I was like, damn, I actually won
this. Yeah.
I was shocked. I was grateful. I was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I wanted to cry, but at the same time, I had no tears. Like, I cry easily, but at the most random moments. And at this point, I was like, cry, Elizabeth, because you have gone through a lot.
And win at the end of the day.
And I won. And he said, Unique Premier. Like, I actually realized he said that when I rewatched it.
Yeah, in the moment.
In the moment, I'm like, what is he talking about? Just say the name. So for me, that was like, one of the biggest moments for me. It made great impact.
Yeah, definitely, because it was when you won, because I also took part in the beauty pageant the year after you did.
Yeah.
It was when you won that was like, okay, this is possible. Like, a black girl can win a pageant.
Yeah.
So it was literally like history, like, because this is the first time that a dark-skinned girl has been able to win such a pageant, and that also inspired me to also apply for a pageant. Definitely not Miss Exclusive, because that wasn't really my vibe. I went for Miss Benelux. But also, again, because of the activities and everything, it looked nice.
It looked fun.
It looked extremely fun.
Yeah.
And with mine, the final was going to be in Egypt. That was what was sold to us.
Yeah.
That the final was going, but then, of course, it didn't happen. So now, for you winning Miss Exclusive, the day after, how did you feel?
Wow. I think I went to, because they then book an hotel. I'm already thinking, I'm about to live the fast life. For me, I was so overwhelmed. I went there to the hotel. They're carrying my bags.
Okay, queen.
I'm like, I can get used to this.
Yeah.
The next morning, you have the camera crew. They're all in your hotel rooms taking pictures. And
newspapers.
Newspapers
were everywhere.
Newspapers. I'm opening magazines. The new Miss I'm like,
that's so
Mama, I made it.
No, but you did.
You guys didn't think a black girl could
but
win,
I did.
Hey, look, it's me. So I was really shocked. I was still getting used to it, but when I went to the hotel and it was time to check out, you've done your Miss shoots, the ones they're gonna put in the press and everything. I hear from my manager. This is something I actually expected.
You had a manager?
Yeah, so the pageant organizer, he becomes your manager.
Okay.
So I hear this statement. We had a sponsor that was supposed to give me a bed, and the bed was supposed to cost around 10,000 euros. Mm-hmm. The previous Miss received it, and he said, "Oof, we hebben een probleem." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Oh yeah, the guy during breakfast said, hij kon wel echt geen nigger in my bed." Meaning, I don't want a nigger in my bed. And I was like, well, he can keep his bed. I couldn't care less. But this was like going to be 10K of the total package, because they make it also seem like you're going to be winning 75K. Yeah. A lot of people really thought I cashed out, Trust me. There was no 75K in cash. they once you win, you see in the little letters, "Iwar de bon,"
Oh Lord.
meaning
Yeah.
if you go out for dinner, that's also
also
part of the
it.
75K. If you
So nothing catch.
nothing was cash unless you book a modeling
Model
gig, and that part I'll tell you because that part was also very
Yeah.
small letters. So that was like my first encounter with, okay, there's gonna be a lot of racism coming my way.
Because the first day.
What'd you say?
Hearing this, the first.
Exactly, the first day.
Day
And I'm like, is this supposed to humble me or is this supposed to piss me off? But I was so in a high at that moment.
But what did they do about it? Like,
he was like, yeah, we gaan dat regelen. You know, we'll arrange something. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
But I was also thinking, why would you tell me actually?
Because it wasn't necessary to.
It wasn't necessary to tell me. Honestly, definitely not that point.
Not the day after.
Not the day after, because then you have a whole year under contract, and your first day at work, at your service, you already hear comments like that. Yeah. So I'm like, okay. Maybe you know when you're so happy,
of course,
even when the devil does, a little push, you're like, hi.
Yeah.
He said that, and I was like, actually, okay, I'm pretty okay.
Yeah, of course.
It's a bed. If it was the car, that would be something else.
Yeah, the car. Did you get the car?
I did get the car.
And are you allowed to keep it?
No.
Okay.
So they made it seem like the car was something to keep.
Yeah.
And then we went to the garage and everything. And he also had like a really bad relationship with the guy because he was also lying to sponsors. He lied to a lot of sponsors. The guy was like, after your miss year, I actually called him when I was about to end my year. He was like, after that, I'm not working with him anymore. He tried to convince me to sign a second year if I wanted to keep the car. But he didn't know that I already called the guy and the guy told me he's not doing it. But when you sign your contract, they make it seem like you're going to have the car. No, you're getting the car for a whole year and then afterwards you give it back.
Okay.
So the car's not to keep.
Okay. No. So like winning, right? Now you've won with everything. What was like the goal for you? For you, was it something like, okay, I can make a career out of it? Because we see like, especially with Miss Belgium, they end up being like a TV presenter. They end up doing this. They end up doing that. Was that the goal for you?
Yeah, I was. My initial goal was to have the whole experience, to meet people, to have fun, to actually try and make a modeling career out of it, because being as short, well, I'm not as short as I make it seem. I'm like, average height. But I was more like, okay, I love presenting. I feel like I have a presenting voice. But I'd rather do the modeling side of it. And winning, he then said, oh yeah, if you want the modeling gigs, besides the sponsors, because for a lot of sponsors you have to do the photo shoot. It's like part of their sponsor package, but he receives the money. You definitely have to do the shoots. But if you're able to arrange for yourself extra gigs on the side, that will pay, that's supposed to be your income. I was like, but that wasn't,
the case,
that wasn't the case. I was supposed to get a cash package and then the rest in waardebon, as he stated. Now, the cash was never going to come because he was like, yeah, we didn't meet our targets and this and that and that and that. He's still preaching the same thing 10 years later, well, 9 years later. So I did arrange some modeling gigs. Then he said, oh yeah, then I would have to receive 50%. Yes. 50. Well, 50%. This is where the story gets ugly, because I didn't receive 50 of my modeling gigs. A few months before me stopping, that's when the idea came, like, this guy's been lying about so many things.
Yeah.
Let me start calling. So I called the sponsors, the ones that I found and did my modeling gigs with that paid. And the woman said, oh no, but I paid this much. I said, what? So they pay, he chooses an amount, then takes 50% of that amount and gives it to me. So I end up literally having like 20, and he keeps the rest for himself.
Wow.
So I was never paid my 50%. I called 3 people. that were willing to pick up, because obviously they thought I was being his little minion. So all the articles started coming out. They're like, okay, she opened, Pandora's box and she's saying everything. That's when they realized, okay, then let's tell her. And a lot of people then came. I haven't been paid. I haven't been this. I paid this much. And how much did you get? So it's always good to read your contracts, but it's also good to know when something's not in your contract and it's added to it during.
Okay, so now with everything that is going on, at what point did you realize, like, hey, there's something fishy going on?
Yeah.
Like, because I mean, it is for the whole year, and I can imagine the first few months you are still in a bubble, like you are still,
I was on
the
cloud.
mist. You get what? Yeah,
I was
which
on
is
cloud
nice.
nine.
Like, at what point did it hit you? Like, no, I feel like I'm being taken advantage of.
I would say the first 3 months, you're having so much fun, experiencing for a small girl coming from South London, not seeing a lot of this, then living in Mechelen, going to school, coming home, and all of a sudden you're being invited to gala parties where you're wearing dresses of 5K that I would probably never use my money to buy, You're like living a life that you're like, okay, this could have been fake it till you make it, but actually I'm living it.
Yeah.
So being in that moment alone, I wasn't thinking about anything that could have gone bad, but actually the traces were already beginning. And I believe the person that I was with, I would say my ex back then, he would say, that's not normal, because
he could see it.
Of course, when you're in something, it's different for you than somebody that's not in it. They see from a total different perspective.
True.
He could sometimes would say, it's not normal him calling you at this time, or it's not normal for you to be coming home at this time, He could have booked you a place to stay.
Hello guys, this is the end of part 1 with my conversation with Elizabeth. I hope you enjoyed it. Tune in next week for part 2. Bye!
Master Mason.